What's up YouTube, Dal here from Zephyr War Games, and today I am finally bringing you the resurrection, the update of Thunder Dragon Bystial profile. Now, do not get this confused with the Bystial Thunder Dragon profiles that you're seeing online, because they will only pretty much include one of each of the Thunder Dragons. Nope, this deck is Thunder Dragon focused and using the Bystials to their advantage to gain as much power on the board as possible. Please, can we have Colossus back? But let's not make it generic, let's try and errata it. Anyway, so as you can see, I've got the nice mixture. We are still playing Titan, which is great. It does give you a form of interruption, and if you wanted to, you can go for a Scythe Lock route or a more control route of this deck. With all of that out of the way, please smash that like button, hit that notification bell, and subscribe so you do not miss out on any more upcoming content. With that all out of the way, we're going to dive head first into the profile and show you exactly what we've got. So we're going to start off with triple Aloof Lupine. Now, because we are playing a much heavier Thunder Dragon lineup, Aloof Lupine, in my opinion, is better than the Batteryman Solar. And the reason for that is because the Aloof Lupine will set up the ability to double chain block. And off the back of that as well, you banish a monster from your hand as cost. So even if your opponent does input on this, it just means you don't get to banish another one from the deck. And it will still be able to trigger like your Darks, your Roars and everything like that. The ideal play is to banish, of course, the best Thunder Dragon, and that is Thunder Dragon Roar. But then obviously the idea would be that you can banish another Thunder Dragon from the deck, and that will allow you to trigger multiple effects in order to kind of move plays forward. It does also mean that you can have multiple routes off of a Lupine by maybe even banishing a Thunder Dragon Dark from the hand to banish a Roar from the deck. So it kind of gives you as much options as possible. Obviously Dark is such a great card as well because it does have that quick effect to allow you to trigger the Titan during your opponent's turn. And off the back of that, it will give you access to either another Thunder Dragon monster or access to a Thunder Dragon Fusion, which is your main route into your Mac Daddy of Titan. And keep in mind, Titan is a win effect, but the fact that it doesn't target is absolutely insane. And it's not a hard once per turn, so you do have the ability to trigger it as many times as you can get away with. Speaking of which, we do play triple OG Thunder Dragon. So again, not only can this trigger Titan, but it gives you free hand advantage for your danger plays. It also gives you the ability to trigger Thunder effects as well. So being able to kind of discard this, and then you can activate your Roar to bring it back to the hand. You can do other stuff that you might need to do. Keep in mind as well that you do have access to level 6 in the form of Roar and Hawk, and then you do have access to level 5s in the form of normal Thunder Dragon and Dark. So the 6s are actually more important because they do have utilities with the Bystials. On top of that as well, if you wanted to go more Bystial focused, the reason you play less of a Thunder Dragon engine is because the idea is that you want to go Batteryman Solar, send a Light of Dark from deck to the graveyard, and then you've got Banish fodder for your Bystials. So it does the exact same route and the exact same play. The only difference is, if you wanted to, you could play Shifter in this version, and if you also wanted to, you could play... The reason with Aloof Lupine makes it a little bit better in this version is because you then need to have a Bystial in the graveyard to trigger the Thunder Dragon from the grave, whereas Aloof Lupine will do the Thunder Dragon job for you all in one card, whereas Batteryman Solar, it needs to be Batteryman, not get negated to stop the send, and then have a Bystial. So it does give you a couple more issues to worry about. Speaking of, we do play the one Hawk, so obviously the ability to special bat from the graveyard or banish is really important, and if you really desperately need to reset your hand, you can do. It's rare that you'll need to do that, but it does happen. Then obviously we have two Thunder Dragon Matrix, so these are again other cards to trigger the Titan. There are ways of being able to banish them to add a second copy of itself, and obviously keep in mind that both the Thunder, or all the Thunder Dragon monsters apart from the original Thunder Dragon, have two effects. One is to discard the card and then do some form of effect. The other one is if it's sent from the field or banished, do another form of effect. So it's really kind of cool, and the best thing about the Bystials is that they target for cost and then banish for effect, which is why you're then able to start triggering off your Thunder Dragons. The last Thunder Dragon card specifically that we play is the one Fusion. This can be looped back with your Raw. The fact that it can also spin back your banished materials, and this is one thing you've got to be very, very cautious of. It's all about maintaining resource. This is a very important thing that when you're up against stuff like Runics, when you're up against stuff like the tier element matchups, they're going to be able to spin stuff back from your graveyard as quick effects. So that can cause a lot of issue. So you need to be able to play around that. You need to be able to adapt, and you need to be able to play around to know when you can and when you can't. Especially with Titan, as great as a boss monster as it is, it does destroy a card, so you need to make sure that you're destroying cards that aren't going to float in the tier element strategy. Moving on to the Bystials, obviously Triple Magna Mut. This card is an absolute boss. I've also gone with 2 Druid Swarm. I did play 3, I've cut it back down to 2. I'm still playing around with the ratios, and the reason I've cut it down to 2 is that my consistency for the Bystial Lubellion is only 2, and that's purely because I only own 2. If I had a third, I would definitely be playing it. Like, the card is absolutely nuts. I love this card so much. So it's pretty much because of the Bystials that I'm like, cool, I want to play Dragon Link, I want to play Branded, I want to play anything that involves the Bystials in a beneficial way. And this is kind of like a natural progression. And what I mean by that is, if you go with Branded Bystials and you've got the Thunder Dragon cards lying around or the Dragon Link cards lying around, you can start to upgrade and adapt. So with the Branded, it's usually 99.9% of the time Fusion focused. Really, really cool, but very directional route of the extra deck. With the Thunder Dragons, you balance Fusion, XYZ, and Links. And then when you go into Dragon Link, you balance more so... Sometimes you can do XYZs, but it's more so synchros with Links. So it does kind of give you a little bit of an adaptation. And that's what's really, really cool about this, is if you're like, you know what, I'm a Fusion player, you go Branded. If you're like, you know what, I quite like Thunder Dragons, I want to be Link heavy and have a bit of a Fusion aspect, I'll go with them. And if you're like, you know what, I want Links and I want synchros and I want all the strong ones, you go Dragon Link. So it's what I love about this deck. It's absolutely insane. The one Soronir, I feel that in this version it's less effective. Yes, it can Foolish Burial the Lubellion, which is very, very important. But off the back of that as well, you need to be able to get it to the graveyard first. You need to then be able to bring the Lubellion back. So it can become a little bit of a pain in the backside. So yeah, you kind of want to play around with it a little bit more, but I feel that 1 is more than enough. The final monster itself is Brotor, and the reason I put it here is it basically looks like the child of Lubellion, which is really kind of cool. But what this one can then instigate or give you the ability to do, yes, you'll notice that I do not have Darkest Diablos in the deck. That is a choice because I've gone more for Chaos plays rather than Tributing plays, and obviously I'm only playing 2 Lubellion, so my level of access to it is a little bit lower in this particular version because I'm going more Thunder Dragon focused than highly relying on the Bystials. It's something to kind of keep in mind, but you can add it in nice and easy. Now, what makes Brotor incredibly powerful is the fact that it does allow you to discard, so it sets up your graveyard. He can also then search out any of your cards that you need. So you can get into Lubellions, you can get into your Thunder Dragons. It's really, really nice in order to do that. On top of that, if you wanted to swap out your Brotor, because the chances are this card's going to be coming off of the spheres, is you're then going to be wanting to look at more control cards. So you could go for the Amorphage Goliath, which will be a soft lock on your opponent, especially if they can't go into the battle phase or you've been able to bounce their only monster to get to the battle phase. It is kind of cool to stop them in their tracks and be a bit more controlled. It's entirely up to you. The last of the branded cards is the one Regained and the one Beast. So this is your out to like Floodgates, to Mystic Minds, everything like that, as long as you can get a Bystial to the board. And then the Regained is just nice draw power, recursion power, and basically special summoning back from the graveyard. Really, really cool card. Black Collapse, White Wyvern, and Chaos Valkyria. We don't have a lot of access to level 4s, but keeping in mind these are easily searchable. This you'll be able to get to quite easily, and obviously Aloof Lupine is your only main starter of the deck. Everything else is special summon capabilities, which is one of the biggest strengths, but also one of the biggest weaknesses of a deck like this, is that you do rely on a normal summon. If you feel that you're not getting enough, that's when you can put in Batman as well. But then 9 out of 10, through my luck anyway, when I'm playing a deck like this, I will always see Aloof Lupine and Batman. I'm like, oh, no matter what one I choose, it's the wrong one. I'll normal summon Aloof Lupine, I'll banish, I'll go Thunder Dragons, and then I won't be able to go much further. Or I'll normal summon Batman Solar, and they'll go Imperm, and I'll cry. But either way, really, really kind of cool. And the discard effects obviously will set all of these up, alongside the Chaos Creator and the Levianeer. Now, obviously, in the other version, you do play double Levianeer. In this version, I've gone with a 1 and 1. And the reason I've done that is because this can also recycle your Bystials from the banish zone, which I think is really, really important. You are banishing a lot on a consistent basis, and you do have a very minimal, but still very prominent balance between lights and darks. A lot of lights can come from the graveyard. You've obviously got half your Thunder Dragons are lights, half of them are darks, and it just gives you a very nice balance between the two, being able to utilize both of these. Defender, Extender, Aggressor. No, I've got nothing that rhymes with that. But anyway, you can kind of see how they work together. And the reason they work so well together is because of this mad card right here, and that is Chaos Space. I'm so glad this is getting a secret bump in the Crystals of Legend. It's just such a good card for this deck, because not only can it search you out your Lubellion, it can search you out any of your Chaos monsters. It gives you the ability to recycle your banished. It gives you a draw. It's just, yeah, all round amazing. Alongside with triple Allure, like, nothing feels better. So there are very few cards in the game where it's like activate Allure and you're happy to banish them. And you're looking at stuff like Necrophase, you look at the Merry Carrier, the Despian Tragedy, and then you look at Thunder Dragon Raw and Thunder Dragon Dark. Like, it's just so nice. And then the last two cards is one Call by the Grave and one Foolish Burial. So Foolish Burial, not only can it set up your Lubellion plays, it can also put you a light or dark in the graveyard, and it's a lot harder to stop than Batteryman Solar, because obviously Batteryman can be stopped by Imperm, Veiler, Ash, whereas this can only be stopped by Ash, and if your opponent's going to Ash this, you're like, what? Another thing you could highly consider in this deck, if you really, really wanted to, because you're not, and what I mean by this is you're not heavily reliant on your normal, you could put in the Brave Engine, and what that will do is that will set you up ability of discard. That will also set you up protection from stuff like Nibiru's, from any forms of Ash Blossoms. It will bait those out, it will base out Ogres, everything like that, which is a really nice inclusion, but it would mean that you would then rely less on your Aloof Lupine, which would go completely out the window, but it gives you the protection. So it's kind of give or take, and it's entirely up to you on how you want to play this deck, which is why I love it so much. Is it has so much variation and so much adaptation that it's really, really fun to play. Moving on to the extra deck, of course, we are playing two of the Mac Daddy Thunder Dragon Titan. So the reason I've gone with two of this is because you do have the ability to loop back the first Titan for a second Titan. Yes, if you want to make it more consistent, you will play two Thunder Dragon Fusions, but with the one, it's enough, because you activate it, you summon the first one, it's got its built-in protection, you can start destroying stuff. If they get rid of it, that's when your Raw is going to come into play, and you're going to discard the Raw, target the Thunder Dragon Fusion, add it back, because it adds back a Thunder Dragon card, and then you activate that, and then you go again, recycling more materials. Moving on to the Link monsters, we'll start off with our Link 1. So Striker Dragon, pretty straightforward and simple on this one. This is just to turn White Wyvern and Black Collapse into the Striker Dragon. If you wanted to, you could play the Field Spell to search, but it's just an additional brick, which isn't really worth it. For the Link 2s, we are playing one Cross Sheep. And the reason I'm playing the Cross Sheep is, as you can see, I've got Fusions. I've also got access to XYZs as well. But the idea is that once I've built on my board, I can then Thunder Dragon Fusion to Titan, trigger Cross Sheep, bring one back, and that's either going to allow me to continue to build my board, it can allow me to upgrade the Cross Sheep, and everything else like that. It's an option, you don't have to play it, but it is something that you might want to look into. We've then, of course, got the one, the Dark Charmer, because this is going to be your easier route into something like Access Code. Hieratic Seals. So obviously a very cool non-target form of interruption. The fact that you can still tribute under cost as well is really, really good, or under Dark Ruler is still really, really cool. And massive shout out to Pasha on this one, is he came up with a very interesting tech play. This was back when Dragon Link was nearly full power. He would summon this and then activate Mystic Mine, and during his opponent's turn he could activate this under Mystic Mine once it went 1/1. And then completely control the board state from there. So it was kind of cool. It's still a very good generic, or dragon generic Link 2 to play. We've then got obviously Nightmare Phoenix, Nightmare Cerberus, because you want to be able to discard, you can break a board apart. IP Masquerena, pretty standard on that one. Nightmare Unicorn, fitting in with the trio. And then for your Link 4s, you've got your Aggressor of Access Code, you've got your Defender of Appaloosa. Now again, I have seen in other builds where they are playing the Sea Monster, and Saruja and everything like that. Very easily doable. Like, to go aggression for your next turn, you could turn your Appaloosa into the World Sea Serpent, and then that would then be able to bring everything back when it triggers on the board. So it is an option that you want to play. It's entirely up to you. And what I would probably cut for it is I'd probably cut the Willow, or Wallow, but I really like this card. The fact that I can use my Thunder Dragons to make this even more consistency is great. For those of you that don't know, It's basically like a quick effect to target one card in your opponent's graveyard, and you either detach 1 or 2 materials from this card. If you detach 1, you return it to the deck. If you detach 2, and if it's a monster, you get to special summon it face up or face down to your field. If it's not, you get to set it on your field. So you're basically able to steal stuff from your opponent's graveyard. So you can still use just 1 material instead. It's a shame that you can only use use this effect once per turn. It would have been nice if you've got 2 materials, just 2 DD Crow kind of thing. And then the last 2 is a Bystial. It's just near enough. If you go first and you make this with the rest of your board, it's an auto win. Like your opponent will then, they would need to dart roller you and then still try and beat your board, but against a tier matchup, they can't play their graveyard. They're in real trouble. And then the last one is the Hieratic Dragon item. So once per turn, you get to detach material from this card to special summon a dragon monster from your deck. Like, bro, really? You make his attack 0. It makes his attack and defense 0, and this card can't attack. It's like, bro, you're telling me I get a free Bro Tool from my deck. If I really, really wanted to, I could do a Goliath during my turn, but then the issue is they can dart roll me and you just cry a little inside. But yeah, it's absolutely insane. It's such a good card for this deck. Again, it does require 2 level 6 dragons, so you do need to rely on the Bystials more than the Thunder Dragons, which is why I've got the benefit of, if I got 2 level 6 and I don't want to go ranks, or Link, sorry, I can go for the Wallow. If I have 2 dragons, I can go for the Atom and then continue my plays. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is that. A very nice hybrid deck. I love the balance between the two. Yes, okay, if you want to go more Dragon D-Link version, you can do. If you want to go more Thunder Dragon version, like I have done here, you can do. I just love the adaptation and the variation that just this deck alone has. And it's really, really kind of cool to play around with and see where it goes. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this. If you do have any questions, by all means, please put them in the comments down below. I will be more than happy to answer them for you. But until next time, as absolutely always, guys, stay safe. And of course, happy dueling.